It's like common sense. That old expression, common sense. The stuff that you got, you could look around and say, what did I do? And all this different, what activity you do and things that worked out for you. And you could still be saying, I'm here and I'm aware of my ancestors, you could say. I think that what we sometimes look across here is that the native peoples that Europeans ran across frequently had strong ancestor worship kind of thing. Like the presence of the ancestors. Well, doesn't it kind of make sense? Anyway. There don't have to be hoogie-boogie about it or mythological or anything. Just think of it as common sense. If you got this awareness, and as you will, see for yourself, and you find that, when you get to understand it, it didn't get started when I got born. You kind of get some glimpses of it while you're here. Great. And from the experience, the direct experience of that awareness, it doesn't end just because you drop the body. It doesn't have a capacity. Awareness doesn't have a capacity like that. As a metaphor, it's more like air. Yeah. It doesn't have a kind of a boundary thing to it. It's just within your body. You get that. You see it outside of you. You see it in other people. You see it in animals. Other animals. So when your father, your mother, a loved one, when they die before you, I think you kind of get it. You'll see for yourself. But they just dropped the form. Right? And even yourself, from direct experience, that awareness is just awareness. Form, we'd say kind of formless, So, of course, your loved one, your parents, when they die before you, all they're doing is their awareness is right here. Because it's just awareness. Just like you have, right now. They have it. They were in that form, now they're not. But the form, is laid out there. Corpse. But the awareness, that's just awareness. It's like permeates everything. You'll see it yourself, but, see for yourself. It's not something that's so easy to define and talk about in our language set. We're kind of, doing what we can here to try and get the idea across. Because I think that's an important thing to kind of think about and understand here in the 21st century. Because we're like, this is where we're going. We're going to pretty strong, intellectualized, humane intelligence-wise, we're going to awareness itself. That's our trajectory, human beings. That's a great goal, isn't it? Because if you get to awareness itself as the understanding, you're going around, what's the purpose of life? What am I doing? And then you get it. Here in the 21st century, it's all around you. The information, it's not hooga booga. It's just something you got it. And each generation is getting the capacity and the experience, and it's different. The generation out of the 1920s, what they call the recently, the people who grew up during the Depression and World War II, right? And then into the 50s and early 60s by then. That generation. Look at them. They're much different than their own kids who come in the 50s and 60s are born. Then the next generation, those kids are different than their parents. It's in their innate understanding that is evolving with each generation to a better and better understanding of awareness itself. See, back in the Dark Ages, anything from the 20th century backwards, Dark Ages. Back in the Dark Ages, people didn't know anything. They had to make it up. They didn't know what geology was. They didn't know very much about astronomy, so they could see the night sky. They put together the stories and paid attention to a lot of things, didn't they? Analyzing where the planets rose and then figuring out a calendar. That's pretty industrious, though, isn't it? They're paying attention. They're looking at patterns. And then you gradually, down the centuries. But see, you went really wrong there, you can say now in hindsight. But maybe it was just something you had to work through. Because once again, you just didn't know. So because you didn't know, you said, well, there's a God. There's something big out there. They know what the hell's going on. They know the reason for it all. And everybody got hooked on that, but it was just a myth made up by their ignorance. They didn't know. We've grown out of the myth. We don't need creation myth at all. All those stories, put them in the library where they belong. Myth. That's it. We've outgrown it. We don't need it. Here in the 21st century, this generation is coming in, and they're getting it. About awareness itself. And it's part of being, look what they're growing into, and the access to information that they're growing into is incredible. People back in the 1920s thinking boom, the people in 2018 have little things little rectangles they hold in their hand, they can communicate with the world in real time. It's huge. Huge difference here. Huge difference. And in all that science and understanding and development, that we went through to get to here. So we don't need to keep dragging along the old myths, the fabricated stories, the delusions of a God, a separate entity watching you, judging you. You got to do this or you're going to be judged. Now you just grown out of it. And it's okay. What's really great is it's really okay. What's really bad is to keep limping along, protecting, defending the myths. Because the myths keep bumping up to where we are emotionally, technologically, reality versus myth. And it's much better that we are talking more and more about what we know what research has shown us, what we understand of our bodies, the environment, the universe around us. That's what we need. That's what we're going to do here in the 21st century. We're coming into the light. It's a momentum. A tsunami of light, you could say. A tsunami of awareness. And it's just naturally unfolding.